What a year it has been. Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to Delaware Live Sports Live. Once again, it feels good to get the old crew back here. Here at the Buffalo Wild Wings in Middletown. I am Patrick Garianis. Today we are going to be breaking down the spring sports playoffs as they get ready to set off starting tomorrow, if I'm not believing. So once again, Patrick Garianis along here. Benny Mitchell to my left. Benny, how are you today?
I'm well. Been a long time. When I came in, we haven't seen each other since 2019.
I know, man. I've had a few more wrinkles since then. They're starting, and gray hairs on their way. And then to my right, going down the list, we go Jason Winchell. How are you today, sir?
That's good. You know, my favorite time of the year. So many spring sports and so many tournaments. So this is the fun time of the year.
Mike Lang.
Fully vaccinated and ready to watch some spring tournament
Love that.
action.
And then Glenn Frazier. Glenn, how are you today, sir?
I'm doing great and looking forward to getting right into this.
Absolutely.
I
He
think
is Glenn the Godfather.
this is
That's right.
Glenn's maiden voyage on the show, I believe.
No, he did.
No, I did basketball.
Okay, all right.
So like we said, we're gonna get right into it here. Start breaking down some spring sports, and also got to give a shout out Nick Halliday behind the camera here today, putting all the fancy graphics you're going to be seeing on your screen throughout the show. So, gentlemen, let's hop right into it. We're going to start off with the softball, the DIAA softball tournament, open tournament this year. 37 out of 41 teams are going to take the leap to try and take home a crown. Starting off with 5 play-in games tomorrow, May 18th, in order to play the top 5 seeds of this tournament. And Glenn, we'll start with you. Some interesting, intriguing play-in round games of those 5.
Well, we got a couple of rematches right off the bat. The 33 and the 32 seeds, Woodbridge and Milford, already played each other earlier this year, and the Blue Raiders got a 1-run win in that game. Archmere Christiana will be a matchup for the first time this season between those two up in Claymont. You have MOT Charter against Brandywine, Polytech and Hodson Votech, and then Newark at St. E. So good luck to all of them. Hats off to the committee for doing this because of the pandemic last year, and some teams and athletes who might never get an opportunity to be in a state tournament to be able to be in one this year.
Without a doubt. I mean, we saw success with the gentlemen in the other sports realms as well. I want to gather everyone's thoughts on the open tournaments, right? We've seen, like I said, we've seen success in the other seasons in which they had some open tournaments. Looking at this softball bracket, Glenn kind of played into it. Really good opportunity for a lot of athletes that may not have gotten the opportunity in years past to get their chance at it. Jay, I'll start with you. What are some of your thoughts looking at the open tournament and 37 out of 41 teams taking that jump?
Well, first of all, good participation. You get 37 out of 41. That's they want these schools want their coach. They want their kids to play and their coaches to coach in it. So good turnout there, and I do like it this year, especially this year. I think, the seniors, the spring athletes lost a year last year.
Yeah.
So why not have them have the opportunity to play in the postseason in a state tournament and to get into as many games as they could this year to make up for the year. So I do like it, especially for this year. I think it was the right decision.
Mike, you got any thoughts to piggyback off of that and what you see with the open tournament?
Because of the way the year worked out, not everybody played the same number of games. And
Yeah.
We saw what happened in the fall when there was some confusion about whether a team would be eligible or not eligible. I think basketball did the right thing, and I think this was a good way to go. Some teams played 12 games, some teams played 17. So just give everybody a shot to get in there. Like Glenn said, some of these teams, they're not normally going to make the tournament. Give them a chance.
Yeah.
And why not? What's wrong? It's an extra day in the tournament. It's not a big deal from that end. And some of these teams, for the kids, that might be the highlight of their high school softball experience. So I'm all for it.
Without a doubt. And, Benny, down south has really dominated this sport, right? Sussex County has produced some extreme talent on the softball field. What are your thoughts here looking at the open tournament? I mean, does it kind of look like another opportunity for a Sussex County team to get in the mix, or what are your thoughts in general?
Yeah, I agree with their sentiments with this year. Down the road to an open tournament, I don't know, what to wait and see. But, yeah, I think it does help the Sussex County teams a little. They got some pretty good seeds in this tournament. It was Sussex Central going number 1 after a season opening loss. And you get to see a little more variety in softball. You're going to get to see some teams that people didn't even know were schools.
Right. Right.
You're talking about the round 1. I've been talking about Delmarva Christian is going to play Sussex Academy. I'm sure a lot of people upstate don't even realize there's a Delmarva Christian and a Sussex Academy, much less 4 scores in Georgetown. Okay, and they're 3 miles apart, and they're going to be playing each other in the first round.
As you mentioned before the show, they traded properties.
Yeah, they traded properties in 2012 because one was growing, one wasn't. So that's an interesting game, and some people are going to find out about schools that they really didn't know were there. I mean, there's a lot of charter schools upstate. If I don't read websites of sports, I didn't know there were schools.
Oh yeah,
so
no doubt about it. Now, every year, there's debate about the seedings, right? Every year, always is. Looking at this bracket, and I know Nick has flashed it up on the screen, I'm sure, a few times already through this segment. Were there any surprises with where you saw teams seated? Mike, I'll start with you, and then we'll rotate around.
Well, there really shouldn't be because they're all based on point systems, so it's hard to argue with they go by numbers. This is not the NCAA tournament. There's no seeding committee. There's tiebreakers they have to work through, but it's looking at teams that maybe a little higher or lower than what they should have been. Laurel for sure has had a fantastic year. For those of us who live up in Newcastle County didn't really get a chance to see Laurel, but it's good to see some new blood break into those top 4 or 5 seeds. So it's good to see that. But they are what they are. Red Lion Christian at an 8. That's a really good team that kind of flew under the radar a little bit.
Yeah.
As far as whether a team deserves to be there, well, that's what the numbers say, and that's how they work it out. So there's really you can't argue with the numbers. The numbers are what they are.
Absolutely. Jay, looking at the bracket, I know you've been working on the numbers throughout the season. Did anything jump out at you?
No, and I think they're right where they were going to be. Kind of right where I had them. And softball's the hardest because softball does a lot with the opponent's win percentage, and so if you play a tough schedule, you get more. I think you get rewarded more for softball than you do some of the other sports. So I think some people will look at like a St. Mark's and go 15 wins. Why are they down at a 12 seed? Well, their schedule wasn't as strong as some of the other schools that are above them in the seeding, so that they were able to make that up, what they're not getting from the win totals.
Glenn, I want to get you in here because I know you have really been following a lot of teams this year. And yesterday in the committee member meeting, Jay has in here, I believe it was the Newark Charter Athletic Director, had a comment saying this season saw many great pitchers and pitching performances since the Reagan Green days. Do you agree? And obviously we've seen a lot of great performances even on our live streams this year from pitchers. How many of these pitchers do you think can get their team to a deep advancement in the tournament even if the offense is slumping a little bit?
Well, it's nice if you have the offense and defense to go along with a good pitcher, like I think Sussex Central does, and that's why they're seeded number 1 and been ranked 1 at least half the season in our poll. A team like Smyrna, 2-time defending state champions, of course no tournament last year. A good pitcher in Peyton Dixon, who is probably their best offensive weapon as well. But they have not really scored a ton of runs this year. She's probably going to have to carry them a little bit unless those bats get hot. If I look strictly at pitchers, at DMA with Frost, Kylie Hill at Laurel, who has a lethal changeup. Let me tell you something. She struck out so many Smyrna batters on changeups and had them way off balance. You got Peyton Shields at Caesar Rodney. Now, there's a couple of question marks. Right. Is Jess Walters going to pitch? Is she going to be 100% for Caravel? Because when she was on, she had an amazing game against Smyrna that we did on a live stream. And St. Mark's. Is Thomas healthy? Is she going to pitch? Saw her playing in the outfield, but is she going to be in the circle? So, there's some question marks, but I'd say 4, 5, 6 teams have some really good pitching this year.
Absolutely. And Benny, I'm going to bring you in here, too. There's a name out there that has been that's new to the scene this year, Madge Layfield.
was not new to me because I coached her father in Little League. So, I've known the Layfields a long time, but she has come on. Even in the game they lost, she had 20 strikeouts in the game they lost. So she hit her 200 strikeout last week.
89 games.
Yeah,
98 innings.
98 innings, yeah. So
I think she was less than that.
she can carry them to the championship, and they can hit the ball too. Sussex Central is a well-rounded team. Their only loss was the season opener with a freshman pitcher who had 20 strikeouts that night.
It's insane.
And it was extra innings, right?
Extra innings, correct? Yeah.
Yeah.
So that'll lead me into the next thing, Jay. How about that? You're the segue king here today. We saw a lot of extra inning games this year. How many games do we see, as a panel here, going extra innings in this tournament? And do we get this international rules? Is that what we're calling it here? The 10th inning runner starting at second base, copying Major League Baseball? Are we going to see that in any of these games?
Oh, I think you're going to see the international rule. And as we get later on in the tournament, I don't think you're going to see it in the early rounds.
Yeah, I'm with Glenn. I think from quarterfinals on, there's a good chance we will get, even in the quarterfinals, there could be 3 or 4 extra inning games, and maybe 1 or 2 of them could go to the international rules. But the reason that the international rules is not effective in the championship, so the championship they will not put a runner on in the 10th inning, but up until the championship round, they will.
No, it'll definitely be interesting to see if that gets to the case. Now, Jay, you also, again, you're the segue king here. You had mentioned some quarterfinal heavyweight matchups that could be taking place. And Mike, just taking a look at a few of them, what do you see in terms of these quarterfinal? If you could name one quarterfinal matchup that you would love to see, what would it be?
I'd like to see the rematch of Smyrna and Laurel. I think that would be a really good one. They just played in the Henlopen Championship game that Glenn and Benny, I think you were there, did the game over the weekend. I think that would be an outstanding game. But I think a game that is kind of off the radar a little bit would be in that top bracket, and that would be, I can see like a Red Lion or an Apo against Sussex Central. I think either one of those teams could give the Golden Knights a good game. There must be a lot of segues in that bunker, Jay.
Yeah.
Segue king, but those two, I'm gonna look at that half of the bracket. I don't want to take all the games because I could talk all night.
Sure, absolutely.
Those two are the ones I'm looking at right now.
Glenn, who maybe has the easiest road to the quarterfinals and probably the hardest quarterfinal matchup if you had to go on either end of the spectrum there?
Yeah, we were discussing that before we went on the air. You hate to say that because some team will just jump up and bite you because you do that. I kind of thought that the DMA quad, that they might have had an easier draw. However, you got to look at potential matchups early on.
Right.
Should Delmar beat Lake Forest in the first round and move on to play DMA, that was a 1-0 game during the season in favor of DMA. Delmar could give them a ball game, and that could be an early upset. If you take a look at the bottom half of that bracket, Caravel, if Seaford gets past William Penn, that was another 1-run game during the season. Seaford barely losing to the Caravel Buccaneers. So you could see some early upsets. So to say that one team's got an easier road, well, hey, maybe not early on. I'm with Mike. A potential Laurel and Smyrna for the third time would be something. And how about Sussex Central? They lost the opening game to Smyrna. After that, in that 17-game win streak, the team that played them toughest was the Red Lion Christian Academy. Lost to them 4-3. That's a potential quarterfinal matchup for the Golden Knights.
Should be a tough one. I mean, Benny, did any of them hop out to you of the remaining?
Yeah, I like that third quad. A Caravel Sussex Tech possible matchup. They just played with Caravel winning 7-2 on May the 8th. Sussex Tech may be coming into this tournament. Was
under the radar?
Not under the radar, playing under their level of play. They've lost 3 out of their last 4 games, and they have 4 losses as it is. They come in with those losses, but we saw them at Cesar Rodney. They have decent pitching, not great pitching.
Right.
They have good hitting, not great hitting. They have outstanding defense.
Yes.
They can get around that field and cover the field and make plays. That's the most interesting. I think that would be the best contested potential quarterfinal. And a team we didn't talk about that I think could sneak in that quarterfinal, Cesar Rodney.
Yeah.
They got off to a hot start, and then they lost the game to Tech, their first loss of the year. And then they've kind of struggled since then. They have a good pitcher in Shields, and they got 2 home runs in the game we did. So they got some girls that can hit the ball. And they got St. George's, and if they win that, they got the big Georgetown battle between Sussex Academy and Delaware Christian. And they could be very easily seeing Delaware Military in the quarterfinals.
You talk about Sussex Tech, Benny, and losing 3 out of 4 down the stretch. Well, those 3 losses were to DMA, Caravel, and
Right.
Sussex Central.
Right.
So that was a pretty tough schedule they
Yeah.
had
It's like the who's who.
coming down the stretch.
But you're still coming in on a low
Yes,
note.
right.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the defensive web gem that we had earlier in the year
Yes.
with the
That's
center
insane.
fielder, Megan
Oh, my
Sterling,
gosh.
with
Right.
the dive and grab, and she also has a good bat, too.
Right.
Now, they alternate 2 pitchers.
They do.
Parker, and the other one is Kruger. Now, Kruger has pitched the last 3 games of going the distance, but they've got 2 that they can switch in
Right.
and out.
It'll definitely be intriguing. So moving right ahead here, let's take a look, and I'm going to ask you guys to maybe get a little bit bold here and put yourselves out there.
Of
course you are. And why not, right? We're trying to push limits here. All right. If you had to take a Final Four team, or maybe if you have to go to 6 to make 4, if you want to throw in a couple extra kudos, that's fine. Who would you say has a great opportunity to make a Final Four in this matchup, and why do you think so? Jay, I'll start with you.
I really like Sussex Central in the top half. I do think Red Line could give them a game, but I think they have the depth hitting to get to the semifinals. DMA, they have some tough games, possible, but with Frost pitching, I really like them moving on to the semifinals. Smyrna, Laurel, kindly in Laurel right now because of the way they played in the Henley Championship game. But I've seen Smyrna, and their bats have got hot a few times this year. But I'd probably lean Laurel there, and I like Benny said, I really like that Sussex Tech Caravel matchup. But if Caravel's Walters is pitching, I do like them to advance to the semis.
Mike, if you had to go out on a limb here, what are you thinking?
Well, because Jenna, our server, went to Middletown, I think the Cavaliers are going to be a threat down there to Dover, and then either Mount Pleasant or Sussex Tech. But I think just having seen them play, I think Delaware DMA is really, to me, on that side of the bracket. Mm-hmm. I think they're really in control over on the right side. On the left, you got to look at those Henlopen teams right now. The 3 of the top 4 seeds on the left side of the bracket are Henlopen Conference, and I don't see anybody right now. Sussex Central, I think they control their own destiny, and you have a freshman pitcher, and sometimes the tournament it's a different level of intensity. So we'll see how Miss Layfield holds up, but nothing seems to have bothered her yet this year. So I think Central, possibly a Central DMA final on May 29th.
We will see. Benny, I'll come to you, and then we'll finish up with you, Glenn.
I think the top 3 seeds are going to hold. I think Delaware Military gets through. I think Caravel gets through. Sussex Central, 169 runs scored, 16 runs allowed all season. Pitcher with 200 strikeouts and 96 innings. I think Sussex Central gets to who do they play is the question. I think it's that one quad that's and you got St. Mark's in there, and if
Thomas?
if Riley Thomas pitches, that could change things. But I think right now you got to look Laurel Smyrna. And I've been saying all year, until somebody beats the champs, they're the champs. But Laurel's done it twice. But they've done it close. Because me and Glenn did the game that night. Smyrna was in a position to win that game late in the 7th inning.
Yeah.
And there was a double play earlier in the game with the runners in scoring position.
Right.
So,
right.
That Laurel team, the Laurel Smyrna is no joke. Laurel Smyrna 3, we could see it in the
Rubber
quarterfinals.
match.
Yeah.
Love
Right.
that. Love that. Glenn, we'll wrap it up. with you? If you know, who are your favorites going into this down the stretch?
I think the top 4 seeds are really, really strong. If you look in the Sussex Central bracket, and we talk about Madge Layfield, but how about Kate Evick? 6 home runs this year.
Mm-hmm.
There are 4 other girls on the team that have hit home runs. They are loaded offensively as well as having a stud pitcher in Layfield. I see them going up against either Appo or Red Lion in that quarterfinal matchup to move on, and I think they will. They just look like the strongest all-around team to me this season. I'm with everybody else. I'm looking forward to hopefully a Laurel Smyrna round 3 in the semifinals. Caravel's kind of intriguing to me, and that's a big question mark. It really comes down to Jess Walder not pitching. Is she going to be 100%?
Right.
Because when she's on her game, she is tough. So if she's 100%, I like them to get through that side. If not, they might run into some trouble with Sussex Tech. And then DMA, hey, they got to get past Delmar. If Delmar beats Lake Forest, look out for that early round trap. And then it probably will be them against Cesar Rodney, and I see DMA moving on.
Okay. 2 things before we go out of Sussex Central is I talked to athletic director Eric McGuire. Sussex Central has an 8-foot fence in the outfield. He says that fence has probably robbed them of 10 to a dozen other home runs this season, the fence being high. And who's the head coach of Sussex Central?
John Wells.
John Wells. And should he get this title,
Double champ.
he told me he let his own phone ring twice before he answers.
I love that.
2 rings.
That's the way to do it. That is the way to do it. I love it. The 26.
Now, he didn't actually say that. I kind of made that up. So I don't want to put words in.
No, that's clever. I like that. How about
I
that?
don't think John was going to say that.
No.
Sussex Central putting together the 27 Yankees in terms of the lineup there. That's pretty impressive. First round games on tomorrow, Tuesday, May 18th, will be played at 4 p.m. And then moving along, you got games on the 19th and the 20th for round 1, May 22nd on Saturday for round 2. Quarterfinals will be Tuesday, May 25th, Thursday, May 27th, the semis with the finals coming on Saturday, May 29th at Caravel Academy. That time, all these times and I guess locations after round 1 will be decided at a future date. We are going to take a first commercial break here today, and then we're going to come back and talk baseball after this here on Delaware Live Sports.
At Ferris Home Improvements, your family's comfort and safety is always our top priority.
If you call us for your roofing, windows and doors, siding, decks, kitchen, and bathroom needs, you can expect health-screened craftsmen who wear gloves and face masks and follow minimum 6-foot distancing, virtual conferences to discuss project details, job quotes delivered electronically or brought to your door for your review and approval, and our showrooms in Newark and Rehoboth Beach remain open for limited appointments.
We're here together.
Operating with precautions.
To protect our staff.
And our customers.
Your home, your community. It's not just where you live, it's where you belong. At Dover Federal Credit Union, we understand what it means to be local. We started here, and we're not going anywhere. We're as local as it gets, and we like it that way. We're not just a financial institution, we are the local credit union that you can trust. Local people, local decisions. Dover Federal Credit Union.
Whether you're planning to buy a home in 3 months, 6 months, or even a year, let me walk you through the process from start to finish and get your questions answered. I'm a DHSA lender with down payment assistance programs or grant money. I can help those with less than perfect credit or those working on their credit. I'm also local and always have been. So call 302-563-5599 or visit bryans.loans.com when you are ready to get started on your road to homeownership. Whether you're planning to buy...
I'm Scott Kammerer from Sotho Concepts. Sotho Concepts is an award-winning restaurant group with 12 locations in beautiful coastal Delaware. Come check us out. At Sotho Concepts, we believe in cooking beautiful, simple food, developing the people we work with, and making the world a better place. Come visit us this fall for our great off-season specials, like half-price entree night and crab cake night. With 12 locations on the culinary coast from Lewis, Delaware to Fenwick Island, we have something for everyone. See you soon.
Welcome back into Delaware Live Sports. Patrick Garianis, Benny Mitchell, Glenn Frazier, Mike Lang, Jason Winchell, all here on the panel. Nick Halliday making us look pretty there behind the scenes. We're moving right along onto the bigger diamond.
That's a full-time job.
Yeah, onto the bigger diamond, taking a look at the 2021 DIAA Baseball State Championship. Another open tournament, fellows. 44 out of 48 eligible teams have decided to take their talents into this tournament, setting up some intriguing matchups. And again, another play-in round starting tomorrow. Taking a look at some of those play-in games, do any of them stand out to you as highlight type matchups? Jay, we'll start with you.
I'll start with the Brandywine AI game. You know, their Blue Hen Flight B conference rivals played a couple times this year, and there they get the early matchup there. You know, in the playing game, and I'm looking forward to that game. I think they played a couple close regular season games, and it'll be interesting to see. I kind of like Brandywine in that one, but I think it could be a good game, and bragging rights for the Blue Hen Flight B conference on the line.
For sure. Benny, I'm going to come to you here. You know, we had talked about it right before we went on air as some intriguing first-round matchups and some potential upsets that could be ahead. What do you see here? Talk to us a little bit about what you're saying.
I like the Newark Charter Newark games. Just like it's new, and it's like the battle of Newark, the charter school and the old public school. And remember, Newark back in the 70s, 80s, even 90s was a powerhouse in baseball. Now they're sitting at a 23 seed facing the new guy, the Patriots out of Newark Charter. There's some in the first round after the play-ins. Delmarva Christian and Lake Forest. Lake Forest is a pretty good ball team, but this Delmarva Christian, they're coming into the tournament blazing hot. They've won 9 of the last 10 games with win over the Henlopen Conference champ Indian River, who beat Sussex Tech to win the title. Dover and Sussex Central. They beat Sussex Central 2-1 at the last game of the season. Sussex Central was one of the hottest hitting teams in the state. They beat them 2-1. Kid by the name of Riley Culver is their pitcher. When he's on the mound, they're good. He threw a one-hitter against Lake Forest on May the 8th. He's got Lake Forest in the first round.
Absolutely. You know, Mike, baseball has been a little bit, even, so to speak, in regards. It's been really wide open this year. Teams both, in Newcastle County, in Kent County, and in Sussex County. Looking at this bracket here, it really is wide open.
Yeah, when you look at a team, I brought these guys up when we were talking before the show. Your 17 seed, Caravel.
Yeah.
They have wins over DMA. They beat Appo. They lost to Sussex Tech, but only by a couple of runs. That's a team that's a 17 seed. They get Milford, who started the season on fire, and I think they lost their last 6 or 7 games. So that's a game that could be pretty good, that Caravel Milford game. But St. George's, should they get by Newark and Newark Charter, that's not an easy game for them if they have to play Caravel on Saturday. I'm sure St. George is thinking, hey, we're the 1 seed. How do we get Caravel possibly in the round of 16? But that's kind of year it's been, and it's just one of those. We've had number 1 team lose after number 1 team after number 1 team get dropped. St. Mark's lost to DMA, and then Appo had a couple of 3-game losing streak there at the beginning of the season after they were number 1. Sussex Tech got knocked off by a couple of teams, so it's just been that kind of year, and it's for a spectator, it's been a lot of fun to watch. But I think there's 8 teams that could win this tournament this year, which is, to me, is great.
Yeah,
without a doubt. And Glenn, like we've seen, also on the softball bracket, there's some really good round of 16 matchups that could come into play. Now, one of the keys here, baseball a little bit different from softball. Pitching comes into play. Whereas softball, you can throw the same pitcher every game. Baseball, not the same. You could be potentially playing 5 games in 10 days to get to a championship. Obviously, take a couple steps back into that quarterfinal round. Maybe that swings some things into other teams' favor. I mean, how does that play in to the pitching side of things?
Yeah, it certainly could, Nick. And I know Benny was talking to us earlier before we went on the air. Cape Henlopen has some pretty good depth on their pitching staff. That top of the bracket there, to me, there's some really good possible quarterfinal matchups. You could have Salesianum against Cape. You could have St. George's against Caravel. Any one of those 4 teams gets hot at the right time, and depend on how the pitch counts go. Any one of the 4, I think, could move along. You didn't ask me about an opening round match. I like that St. E's at
yeah.
Woodbridge. I wish it was Wilmington Friends at Woodbridge because they've got such a football
Right,
rivalry.
right.
And that would be awesome to have them playing together in the baseball first round. I'd like to see the way up, upstate, downstate matchups early on.
Those are always a good one. There's no doubt about that. Looking at this in terms of draw, right? So maybe there's some teams that have really good matchups on their way to a championship, other teams that may have a harder climb. If you had to go hardest and maybe perhaps the most advantageous in terms of path, where would you go? I'll poll everybody. We'll start with you, Benny.
Well, you have St. George. Anybody in that top bracket,
Yeah.
that is, that's if you just went that bracket right there, you could consider that a state tournament.
Yeah.
Cape and Lip and Sally's, they're going to meet on possibly they win their games. They're going to play in the round of 2 on May 22nd. Sally's went down to the beach and beat them 6-0. St. George's, Carabel. St. George's this year has been like nobody wants it.
Yeah.
Give them number 1. I don't want it. But on May 29th, somebody has to win this thing. So, and when Glenn talked about Cape's had 10 pitchers with significant innings on the mound this year. They are pitching staff ready for this tournament. And I said, on the podcast earlier in the year, I think they're the one team that if it comes down to pitching, that's going to be an advantage to them. Although I think this is a tournament that's going to come down to hitting. When you got to play 5 games in 10 days, you better be able to get the bat on the ball because your number 1 guy may not be there due to the pitch counts.
All right.
That's a good point. Jay, looking from your perspective here, is there somebody that maybe, obviously we talked about the top of the bracket being very tough. Looking at that bottom side of the bracket, I mean, who ends up coming out of that one?
Well, I think that's tough too. I mean, you look at the bottom half, you see St. Mark's, Sussex Tech. There's some, St. Mark's get Archmere in the round of 16, and they played earlier in the year before Archmere went on this winning streak to end the year, and Archmere probably gave St. Mark's their best game early. Held them to, I believe, 4 hits, and 4 runs. So I think that's a tough one for St. Mark's right out, in that round of 16, and so there's some great matchups up and down. But I guess if I had to go a team come out of that bottom half, I'd probably lean Tech. I like their offense.
I like where they're at in the bracket.
Yeah.
Oh, you're up another bracket.
I don't think and as I said this, I'm not putting the target on their back, but I think they can get by with 2s and 3s, maybe 4 pitchers because of their hitting, and not have to use their ace until Conrad in the quarterfinals.
Or Appo.
Yeah, whoever wins that Conrad Appo game.
Don't overlook them.
Right.
Well, let's talk about them, right? Last time we saw them in a tournament situation, they were undefeated, and they went all the way as an undefeated champion. Different team this year than we saw in 2019, yet still very talented. Lorenzo Carrier anchoring that lineup. Evan Bolden on the mound as well. Talk about this Appo team. They're the defending champs. You talked in softball how Smyrna's the champion until they're knocked off. I mean, what are we thinking about the Jaguars right now? Mike, Glenn, anybody?
They're obviously they're offensively they're being carried by Carrier. That came out wrong, but
right?
Zoe's the man when it comes to offense. He's on base all the time, and unless he's still on base, even if he's getting walked.
Barry Bonds treatment.
They have some pitching. They've gone through a couple of losing streaks this year, and it's kind of baffling when you look at that team. But I think that just tells you what kind of year it's been in the state. They look great some nights, and then sometimes the defense kind of fails them, or they don't hit, or whatever the deal is. Pat, what I wanted to mention when Benny was talking about all the pitching that Cape has is, these pitchers have a 205 pitch limit for a rolling 7-day period. So you're looking at Thursday, Saturday, Tuesday.
Yeah.
You can only go 205 pitches, and if you go over a certain number of pitches, you need 3 days rest. So the most important player person on the bench is probably the guy who counts pitches and makes sure who can pitch when and how many guys can go and when they can go. And it's a lot of games every other day, pretty much. That should be interesting. But Appo, Why not Apple? You know, they've been a great team all year, and they've had a few slip-ups, but apparently so has everybody.
You know, the one team in the bottom of that bracket, I don't know if they can – they've done it 3 times this year. I don't know if they can do it 3 times in 10 days, but that little town down there in the southwest corner of Sussex County, Delmar.
Yeah.
You know, I just don't know that they can – they have 2 good pitchers. I just don't know that their bats can stay hot enough, but they can certainly pull an upset in there. And right off the bat, round 2, the team they beat once this year, Sussex Central.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Glenn, I mean, if you had to talk about, you know, maybe a couple teams that you would like to see highlighted here, maybe a couple players you'd like to see highlighted here that we haven't touched on yet. I mean, who would they be looking at this bracket?
You might think I'm crazy, Pat, but I think this might be a more wide open tournament than the previous one we talked about.
Wow.
You're right.
I really see more teams here that have a shot that could win this whole thing. We talked about the top half of the bracket with 4 real solid programs there. I haven't seen Tower Hill at all this year. Benny talked about don't overlook Delmarva Christian. DMA, I've seen them a couple of times. A solid hitting ball club, pretty good defense as well. And they've got a couple of pitchers too. They don't just rely on the one guy. Apo being a 10 seed? Yeah. I mean, again, they go by numbers. But and Conrad I think it's loaded. It's loaded, and it's anybody's ball game, and you could have some really good games in round 2, let alone quarterfinals.
Absolutely. I mean, like we said, all of us, I think, have been communicating throughout the year about how wide open it's been, and that's what it's going to make a great tournament. There's no doubt. And the top part is with all these games being played at the same time, you almost have to pick and choose which ones you're going to be at.
The number 1 ranking has been like a game of hot potato.
Yeah.
It's like nobody they get it and they lose the next day.
Mark's and Apo and DMA and St. George's, and didn't Tech sneak in there one week or something?
We talked about during the commercial that more than one of our top 10 ranked teams is not going to make the round of 8.
Yes.
The way that this tournament fell out. So, and we're just looking at a couple of top 10 teams playing each other. Who's going to get snake bit in this tournament? Who's going to get upset by the Delmarva Christian, by the Delmar? There's some landmines in this bracket above 9 and up. It's going to be an interesting baseball tournament. Like I said, it's been a game of hot potato to be the top team. And I said the game was about offense, and Sussex Central at the bottom of the bracket is I think I scored 196 runs this year, almost 200 runs. But like I said, last game of the season they lose 2-1 to Delmarva Christian.
It really is insanity. Looking in again, May 18th is these play-in games. Then you go round 1 Thursday, May 20th. Round 2 on Saturday, May 22nd. Quarterfinals the 25th. Then we get the Frawley, right? The semifinals on the 27th, 4 and 7 p.m. there, with the finals coming on May 29th at Frawley Stadium. Time to be announced. This is one of those things where, like Benny mentioned, your offense gets hot, your pitching gets hot. It can carry you to a championship. Having the games back to back. How does that play in, not only from a player's perspective, but maybe a managing perspective? There's definitely a sense of strategy that comes into it,
especially with the pitch counts. We were just saying about maybe in a close game, you can throw your number 1 maybe to get the save in the 7th inning, and as long as he's less than 35 pitches, he's got more than 1 day. You can throw in that second day. But if a 1-day rest with the game the other day, then he can come back and start the next game. Like Mike said, you have to watch that 210 count, but there's nothing saying you can't have him close some games. As long as he stays under that pitch count for the 2 days rest. So strategy is going to be really important, and like I said, it's single elimination. Yeah. So if you're in a close game, you might have to go to that number 1 pitcher or a number 2 pitcher to bail you out, because you have to win to advance. And I don't think, like they said, there's not an easy game on this list for these teams. Especially from round of 16 on. So. It's going to come down to, who controls that the best, who manages the best, and and that's why I really like this tournament this year. I think it's that wide open.
All right, so let's do it. Let's put together some final thoughts here. Mike, I'll start with you. Give me anything additional that you feel is important to this discussion prior to these games starting up, and who's best set up to reach that final and win it and hoist the trophy at the end of the year.
Well, there's really no easy answer to that one. I'm probably you're going to be squirming on my chair here. Benny talked about this top quadrant, and it's just unbelievable the schools that are in there. Milford at 16. I think they're better than that. Caravel, I think they're better than 17. I've seen both of these teams play. And then you have Cape and Salesianum potentially meeting on Saturday. You could have St. George's against either Caravel or Milford. Some great games in there. I think, it comes down to you. Somebody has a bad day, they make a couple errors. That's baseball's it's strange that way. The one or two mistakes really can open things up, and it doesn't matter if your guy's striking everybody out. If you're down 5 or 6 runs because the ball hit a rut in the grass and skips by you, there's not much you can do about that. I think people, if they have a chance to go out and see a team like a Tower Hill, I did get a chance to see them once in part of another game, and they don't have the names that some of these other guys do, but the Conrad beat them on the last day of the regular season. It was a 5-point win for them. It probably jumped them up 3 spots in the seedings, Jay, just from Conrad getting that win over Tower. So it's there's a lot of luck involved, and just how somebody gets to lose the ball in the sun, anything goofy like that can really make a difference. Nick never lost the ball in the sun when he was playing from out.
Oh yeah, I did.
But I'd say get out and see some of these games, and I'm hoping on Saturday that they stagger these start times so people can get out and watch more than one game.
Yeah.
Maybe start a game at 11, a couple games at 11, some games at 1, and some games at 4. And if you can have one night game, why not?
All right, Glenn. I mean, any final thoughts that you have additional to throw in here? And if you had to pick a team or two that you could see, but getting a chance to roll this thing through, who would they be?
Again, you got to take a good look at Apo, just because they were seeded 10th. We had them number 2 going into the final week. I don't know where they would be this week's rankings, but them being a number 10. Cape Henlopen, a 9, and Salesianum, an 8. I mean, there's just so much parity in this baseball. And I don't put the favorite label on anybody, like we pretty much did in softball with Sussex Central and or DMA. I don't really see a standout here.
Benny?
The one team that got number 1 and never folded was St. George's. And I think they've won 8 straight games here at the end of the season since they had the number 1 to carry around. And that was some quality wins. They beat Apo, they beat Conrad. So there's 2 big wins in the last 4 games of the year. So I think they're the confident team coming down the stretch. Although, they got to get through a quarterfinal with either Cape Henlopen or Salesianum. And I said on the podcast 3 weeks ago, I kind of Nick asked who we thought from the outside looking in of the top 4, and I said Salesianum. And I said Salesianum because if they can get back to Frawley, it's like a home game to them. It's right back in the city, and I think Sally's is very dangerous up top. I like Sussex Tech, 2 good pitchers, some hitting in there. The catcher Shockby, returning All-Stater. They got some bats in that lineup. But I see teams like Delmar just causing problems for people, not winning the title, keeping somebody else from winning the title. They're a dangerous team. Apo, I think, like Glenn had said, a 10. That's a tough 10 seed. They pick up a good Conrad team and maybe potentially a good Sussex Tech team. But I got to stick with the 1 seed. I think it's going to be a tough road to hoe. But I think St. George's is coming in with the swagger right now.
Jay? Final thoughts, maybe a couple teams to keep an eye out for?
Right, and I'm with Benny. In fact, they only have 1 in-state loss, and it was at the beginning of the year to Salesianum. Their other loss was to a nationally ranked Malvern Prep team in extra innings in a high-scoring game. So I just really like the way they're playing right now. They're playing with some confidence. A big win against Appo in a private.
They got good players.
Yeah, and Hart. What can you say about Hart pitching?
Zach Hart's great.
He's unbelievable. But you know what I like? This is the perfect year for an open tournament because there's so many good teams.
Right.
And so many good teams. And some of these teams would have been left out in the 2014 field. You know, and I'm not saying anyone, you know, over 24, but in baseball, you always have a chance. Like Mike said, it just takes one crazy hop or, you know, one bad inning and you. I think there's upsets that you'll see in this, and I just think this is going to be a fun tournament to watch these next 10 days.
And that's it. I mean, we're going to get a first chance to take a look at it tomorrow with some play-in games. Just of note, last 4 years, 4 different state championships in baseball, a little bit different than softball. I know you guys have already mentioned a couple different teams, whether it be St. George's or Sally's or a couple of these other teams that you mentioned. That would be the 5th different champion in 5 years. So,
Pat, we should mention these games are our tournament games, and there is an admission fee to these games. And if you're going to go, you should check out each individual school's website to find out how to get tickets. I don't know if they're going to be selling tickets on the site, but
it's usually $5.
Yeah, people should be aware of that before they head on out.
Great point, Mike. It's a great point.
But get out there and support these teams. They played most of the year with parents in attendance.
Yeah.
And as of Friday, everybody can go and you can take your mask off.
So we'll see. Parity has been there the last, like I said, the last 4 years.
You might be the person that cheers Concord on the victory. You never know.
You never know. Well, with that, we'll conclude our baseball discussion. Glenn and Benny, thanks for joining us. I think you guys have concluded. So thanks once again for joining us on here. When we come back, we'll dive into a couple other spring sports with Mike and Jay right here on Delaware Live Sports.
Welcome to Premier Physical Therapy. Come on in. Premier is a locally owned outpatient physical therapy practice with convenient locations near you in all 3 counties in Delaware. At Premier, we have experienced physical therapists with advanced credentials, but their hospitality, passion, and enthusiasm is what makes the difference for you. Every patient receives personal attention with an individualized model of clinical excellence and care. Our goal is to get you back to your favorite activities. From injuries due to work and automobile accidents to post-surgical care to sports injuries and more, Premier offers direct access to our physical therapists, allowing you to schedule your appointment quickly and easily, even without a prescription. Find our convenient locations at www.premierptsp.com. Premier Physical Therapy and Sports Performance. You may have tried physical therapy, but have you tried Premier?
Have the assurance that your HVAC system is what you need with Ambience. Ambience provides you with over 25 years of experience in the heating, cooling, and plumbing industry. The team at Ambience Heating and Air Conditioning provides high-quality residential HVAC installations, maintenance, and repairs in new and older homes in the Delaware, Maryland, Pennsylvania tri-state area. You may not realize it, but half of your energy costs go to heating and cooling. Make sure your energy dollars count and call us today for a free estimate. 302-239-HVAC. 302-239-4822. Get the assurance.
Ferris Home Improvements, your family's comfort and safety is always our top priority.
If you call us for your roofing, windows and doors, siding, decks, kitchen, and bathroom needs, you can expect health screen craftsmen who wear gloves and face masks and follow minimum 6-foot distancing, virtual conferences to discuss project details, job quotes delivered electronically or brought to your door for your review and approval, and our showrooms in Newark and Rehoboth Beach remain open for limited appointments.
We're here together.
Operating with precautions.
To protect our staff.
And our customers.
At Ferris Home Improvements, your family's comfort and safety is always our top priority.
If you call us for your roofing, windows and doors, siding, decks, kitchen, and bathroom needs, you can expect health screen craftsmen who wear gloves and face masks and follow minimum 6-foot distancing, virtual conferences to discuss project details, job quotes delivered electronically or brought to your door for your review and approval, and our showrooms in Newark and Rehoboth Beach remain open for limited appointments.
We're here together.
Operating with precautions.
To protect our staff.
And our customers.
At Ferris Home Improvements.
Welcome back in. Delaware Live Sports bringing in some spring sport championship talk. We're taking, off the diamond now. We're changing the cleats, going into different cleated sport, soccer, with the 2021 DIAA Girls Soccer State Championships. This is where it's split up, right? D1, D2. We're going to start in D1. There's an 8-team tournament that starts on May 21st. Guys, the bracket has been out there. You've got a chance to take a look at it. Mike, I'll start with you. Any surprises in the seedings and any intriguing matchups in these opening 4 games?
I think, first off, I think that Wilmington Charter Middletown game is going to be outstanding. That's going to be on Saturday at Caravel, it looks like. I think that's going to be really good. And I don't want to – I'll say Smyrna, Cesar Rodney, the reason at Smyrna on what day is that? That's going to be on Friday night. Cesar Rodney is missing their biggest scorer with an injury. They're the 6th seed. Smyrna's the 3. The Eagles have always been good. This year they might be state championship contender.
Jay, same to you. Taking a look, digesting this top 8. What are some of the things that stand out to you?
Yeah, and obviously I'm with Mike. I think that first of all, at Charter Middletown, they played in the regular season and went OT, and Charter won in overtime. Two very evenly matched teams. Both teams have excellent goalkeepers. And that game is Saturday, because of conflict, and they're playing at Caravel, a turf field. So, does that favor Middletown playing on turf more than Charter? I don't know, but I think that's an evenly matched game. Also to note, their first game, missing Jada, was against Smyrna, and CR won 1-0. Smyrna beat the 2nd seed Appo this year in overtime and played Middletown tough. So it's going to be interesting to see how this one breaks down. But there's a couple good first round matchups.
Absolutely. You mentioned it, Jada McCall, obviously with the injury. Hopefully, speedy recovery to her. Get well soon. Looking at the history here, right? I mean, Padua has been very dominant in years past. Middletown, they got it back in 2017. I can't quite remember 2019. How did that one end? Do you guys know off the top of your head? I'm not quite sure.
Padua over Charter, I believe, right?
Yeah. So it's pretty much been Padua's tournament in years past. So
it was
is there a team out there that's going to be able to compete with the Pandas? Obviously, Middletown, like we said, did it 2017. Is there I know Middletown's actually one of the teams, but is there a 2017 Middletown in this bunch? If so, who are some of those top candidates?
Well, I'll start with the 2nd seed Appo. I saw Appo at Padua. Appo got there late because I think of traffic. Got off the bus, didn't even get a chance. Got a little warm-up time, but they get off the bus and score 4 minutes in, and you're like, is the Pandas in trouble?
Right.
Well, no, they responded right away. Get a goal a minute later, scored a couple sweet goals off free kicks. But other than those goals on free plays, it was played pretty much even, throughout. And Appo had some good chances, Padua. They had one go off the post and another one over the net. So I think Appo could give them a game. and I really like that Middletown Charter winner. And Padua beat them both during the regular season, and probably both, comfortably.
Right.
But both of them have good goaltenders, and sometimes we saw that year. Middletown won against Padua in the championship. I mean, Padua outplayed them the whole game. Middletown gets an early goal, and then holds up because the goalkeeping's solid the rest of the day. So I always think a hot goalkeeper can sometimes spoil a top seed, because if they're on top of their game and making saves, all it takes is one counterattack, and maybe you go down. So I do think that Middletown Charter winner could be interesting matchup for Padua, because both Middletown and Charter have strong goaltending.
I mean, Mike, obviously Jay kind of laid out a little bit of the land there. Is there anybody else that you would throw into that?
I saw Padua's only lost this year. They lost to St. Mark's, and the secret apparently there was score early, drop everybody back, and play defense. And that's what the Spartans did that day, and they did it. And then just last week, I was at Caravel. Padua beat Caravel 1-0. They scored in the first. They scored in the 7th minute, and that was it for the game and the scoring. So there are ways to play with Padua, but despite they have a new coach, but they still have. To me, they have the top talent in the. Among the top talent in the state, in Brianna Hallow, Sydney Wright, freshman Maddie Mosier. They're stacked again this year, and I think it's their tournament to lose.
So first round.
But they could happen. It happened. Yeah. We also happen with Middletown. We saw, we've seen Wilmington Charter beat them occasionally over the years. They're not invincible.
For sure. May 21st, first round. Second round, May 25th, and then almost a full week before a championship game on June 1st. That'll be at Caesar Rodney. Last thing before we hop over to D2, that 1 week of preparation could come into play for a team. You get to scout and look over some tape and try and come up with some game plans. I mean, do you think that's an advantage as a coach, or do you think it could potentially be a disadvantage because it could take your momentum away from you?
I think it's both, but I'll take the advantage part too, because in soccer's a physical game sometimes, and you might get beat up. It's a mentally tough game because you might be in a close game. Maybe it goes overtime, and maybe you play 90 to 100 minutes, and so I think a week is good recovery time, and I think that could help. But it's. The weight is for both teams. So I mean, it's what team needs that week more, I should say. It could be the factor.
So we'll move right over right now into the Division II side of things. A little bit more of an open style bracket here. I believe we have a total of 12 teams in the Division II state tournament. A couple byes in the play for the top 4 seeds, which are Caravel, Indian River, St. Mark's, and Archmere. Again, fellas, just taking a look at this bracket. What teams do you see here as had good stories so far this year and could make some noise here in the tournament? Jay, I'll start with you, and then we'll go to you, Mike.
I'll say St. Mark's for Mike, because we've both seen St. Mark's a lot this year, but they've been special, especially the back half of their schedule. Mike can talk about that. But a team like Indian River, they're on a roll. They won 9 or 10 in a row. Just won the Henlopen Conference championship, beating Caesar Rodney.
Right.
But a team like that, I also like for a first round matchup. I want to see that Brandywine Sussex Academy matchup. The Sussex Academy coming up here to face Brandywine 8-9. Both teams had good years, and I think I think that one of those teams might be able to give Caravel a game in round 2. So it'll be interesting to see which one of those two teams left. But I think there was a lot of parity once you got below the top 2 teams this year, and so I think there could be some really good first round and second round games.
Yeah, so Mike, tell us a little bit about a first-round matchup that intrigues you, and then the Spartans. You guys have both alluded, or Jay alluded to.
We have to talk
the story about them. Yeah,
first-round game I'm going to be at, and I want to look forward to is Ursuline and Sanford.
Mm-hmm.
I saw Sanford against Padua, and obviously, Padua won I think 4-0, but Sanford really played well that day. So I want to see how they play against Ursuline. Ursuline's a really good team. They got a couple of scorers, but Sanford's good. I think that should be a good one on the turf at Abyssinia on Wednesday. Jason mentioned the SAS game at Brandywine, which is also going to be a good one. But for my first round game, that's the one I'm going to be at, and that's the one I'm really looking forward to seeing. You mentioned St. Mark's. I think we have to mention St. Mark's. They're undefeated, 15-0, making Allison Drini happy. And they have Alyssa Ruggieri, the senior, transferred from DMA. Mm-hmm. So she's got a state championship when she was with the Seahawks. Yep. In fact, I think she may have scored the championship-winning goal in overtime. She's just been a machine, a scoring machine this year for St. Mark's. Really has added just another dimension to the team's game. They already had and still have Maddie Shepers, who's a junior, who's another big scorer. And their keeper is a freshman, Marissa Cirillo, who's just been a rock back there. But I mentioned Ursuline, and they wouldn't play. If they met, it would be in the finals. Ursuline lost to St. Mark's the first time they played, just 1-0. So, that's they've had a couple of close games this year, but they have a win over Padua. They have a win over Middletown. We saw them. We streamed a game against Archmere on Friday, and they're just steamrolling people right now. And, Coach Swayze's got a real good thing going over there. But nobody's going to hand them a title. They're going to have to go out and earn it. No matter which team they meet, it's going to be a tough battle. DMA and potentially in the second round could start that soon for St. Mark's.
And Mike, don't say anything about his chair, will you?
Swayze had to beat up beach, or not like a folding pop-up chair that we made fun of during the stream. But Dan, you deserved it, and we'll get you a new chair if you win the championship.
Absolutely. So we talked about Padua really doing a lot of damage in Division I. You look down at D2, it's Caravel. DMA got them in 2018, and you look at like Tower Hill and Indian River, always been in the mix. Looking at the bracket this year, those four teams obviously in the mix, and then you just threw in obviously St. Mark's and Archmere having themselves a really great year as well.
Year too,
is this a chance for Caravel to get back and reclaim the Division II crown, or one of these other teams going to get in the mix here and take this thing away? I mean, what are your thoughts, Jay?
Well, Caravel I think has a tough draw. I mean, I think Sussex Academy could give them a game there in their first game, and then if possible IR Ursula matchup. It won't be easy, but I do like them, and I think they can get to the finals. The bottom half, interesting. I like if Newark Charter gets by Friends. I really think that Archmere Newark Charter game could be intriguing. Two conference rivals playing. They played a couple of weeks ago, and Archmere got a couple early goals, and they held up. That could be a good game. But the bottom half, I think it's St. Mark's to lose.
Right.
But like I say in soccer, sometimes all it takes is that one goal.
That's right.
And then you need to, you might need to find a way to get back into the game. But I think I'm leaning towards a chalk 1 versus 2 in the final. But I don't think it's going to be easy for either team to get there.
Yeah, I know I was singing the praises of St. Mark's, and they deserve it. But Caravel, I got a chance to see them finally last week against Padua. It was 1-0. Mm-hmm. This is a team with some real experience on it. Gabby Marte, Caitlin St. Ledger, two seniors who can put the ball in the net. Riley Pinato has been the keeper this year for most of the season. Olivia Sapo is a junior, very experienced. They've been there before. They've won that Division II title I don't know how many times. It's not, and like Jason said, they're going to have to earn their way to the championship, as is everybody. But a St. Mark's and Caravel final, that would be something special.
It would. So there you have it. We broke down both Division I and Division II soccer. Looking at D2, Round 1, May 19th. Round 2, which would be the quarterfinals, May 22nd. The semis come in May 26th with to-be-determined locations. Obviously, quarterfinals will be at the highest seed, the teams with the byes. And the final, June 1st, once again, doubleheader down at Caesar Rodney High School. Time to be announced for that one. That will do it here for girls soccer. We're going to take a quick commercial break, come back. Boys lacrosse is the next thing on the docket before we conclude this this special. So stick with us. We'll be back after this.
Your home, your community. It's not just where you live, it's where you belong. At Dover Federal Credit Union, we understand what it means to be local. We started here, and we're not going anywhere. We're as local as it gets, and we like it that way. We're not just a financial institution. We are the local credit union that you can trust. Local people, local decisions. Dover Federal Credit Union.
Home in 3 months, 6 months, or even a year. Let me walk you through the process from start to finish and get your questions answered. I'm a DHSA lender with down payment assistance programs or grant money. I can help those with less than perfect credit or those working on their credit. I'm also local and always have been. So call 302-563-5599 or visit BryansLoans.com when you are ready to get started on your road to homeownership. Whether you're planning to buy a home
Hi, I'm Scott Kammerer from Soto Concepts. Soto Concepts is an award-winning restaurant group with 12 locations in beautiful coastal Delaware. Come check us out. At Soto Concepts, we believe in cooking beautiful, simple food, developing the people we work with, and making the world a better place. Come visit us this fall for our great off-season specials, like half-price entree night and crab cake night. With 12 locations on the culinary coast from Lewis, Delaware to Fenwick Island, we have something for everyone. See you soon. Hi, I'm Scott Kammerer.
Back here, ladies and gentlemen, Delaware Live Sports, going to conclude our spring playoff preview special with boys lacrosse. We're not leaving girls lacrosse out here. We are still waiting for those brackets to be let out, so it's kind of hard to break that one down, fellas. So, without further ado, let's get into the boys lacrosse. Looking in history's past, since 2010, Salesianum has been in each and every state championship matchup. They're 7-3. Lost in 2010 to Tower Hill and 2014 and 2019 to Cape Henlopen. This year, obviously, they're still in the mix. However, does this seem to be an opportunity here for, obviously Sally's Cape Henlopen won last time we had a championship game. Do they have a chance to reclaim a crown, or is there a couple other teams in this mix that we should be taking a look at? Jay, we'll start with you.
Yeah, you're saying Cape has a chance. Yes, they have a chance. They lost to Sally's 11-10 in the game. I believe the game-winning goal was scored with about 9 seconds left. Then they lose to Sanford by goal in overtime. Sanford scores and takes the win, and with that win, the top seed. So I think those three teams right now are the cream of the crop and lacrosse, and two of them are going to have to play in the semifinals if they get that far, Sanford and Cape. So it's going to be interesting, but those would be my three favorites, and I think any one of those three could probably win it, Pat. So yes, I think Cape. If you're asking me if Cape can reclaim the title, I do think they can. It's going to be tougher for them though, because they're going to have Sanford in the semis and Sally's in the finals probably.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be a 16-team tournament here, Mike. Just first look at the bracket. Obviously, again, Salesianum, they're the 2 seed in this one. So if they're number 2, who's number 1? Cape Henlopen? No, not at all. Sanford is sitting atop of this bracket right now.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about the Warriors. What a program they put together.
I had not had a chance to see them until Saturday. I made it a point to go out and watch them, and they just dismantled Archmere, and it wasn't close. Archmere led 3-2 after the first period, and then the rest of the game was 15-1 in favor of the Warriors. They're fast, they're aggressive, they like to shoot. They don't have a lot of beef, but they're tall and they're long. It was an unbelievable display by Sanford, and I can see how they would give Cape or Salesianum or Archmere or CR or any of the contenders, all kinds of problems, because that's a really, really good Sanford team that they have out there. It's an outstanding team. I was mucho impressed.
For sure. Which of these top seeds, right? Sanford at 1, Sally's at number 2, who's it here? Archmere at number 3, DMA at number 4, even Cape Henlopen at number 5. Who's got maybe the toughest road to grind through to get to a championship match? I'll start with Mike. We'll start with you. Which of the top 5?
Of the top 5,
Yeah.
I would. Well, anybody has to go through Salesianum, I think, is the toughest road. So I'd say probably the top 5 would be Archmere.
Okay.
But on the top, if I had to go to the top 3, we were talking before. I agree that top half of the bracket is just going to be with Cape and Sanford, especially. But you throw in a DMA. Jason, you know about Wilmington Friends. They can be a really tough team, even though they're the 12 seed. I wouldn't discount a team like Friends or even a team like Smyrna.
Right, and the thing about Friends, they're a young team. So, that, you know, even if this is great experience for them. They get in and they get a road trip to Lewis.
Yeah.
You know, get to play a 5 o'clock game, you know, close to under the lights down there. You know, it's great for these freshmen. You know, it's a great experience for years past. But, yeah, I think they're
going to be the underdogs for sure.
Absolutely.
They're going to give Cape a run.
Right. I think that game. I think that game's going to be closer than some people think. You know, and I just think the Independent. You know, they played Sanford twice. They played Tower Hill, who seeded 7 twice. They played DMA. They played Tatnall. They played a lot of tough teams. That for a young team, I think they held their own. And you know, I think they probably didn't know if they were going to make the tournament or not. Not only in the tournament, they're up there as a 12 seed. They get to travel and get to test themselves against the Cape Henlopen team. So, you know, good for that program at Friends. You know, and like I said, they're freshmen. A lot of them are freshmen, so they're gonna be that. As long as they're all back at the same school, that's always the question, right? Nowadays, if they're all back, I really like that team moving forward.
Yeah.
But just I don't know if this tournament it's going to be.
This is really a 3-team.
Yeah, I believe this is
3-team tournament.
You know, I believe it's Sanford,
we all
Sally's, and Cape.
The thing about I'm sorry, Jay. The thing about Sally's, yeah, they're the 2 seed. And there's nothing wrong with being the 2 seed. A couple of things about the Sal's. They don't have that superstar that they've had in the past that's really standing out and scoring all their goals. They're very well balanced scoring. They played much of the season without Brian Wong, one of their best attackers. He was back on in their last game against IMG on Friday night. Yeah. They played. We mentioned IMG Academy. They lost in overtime to IMG. They had a shot go off the post, and then the goalie from IMG made a save 30 seconds before IMG won the game. They played Malvern. They led Malvern into the middle of the third quarter. They played Culver Academy out of Indiana. They led them almost the entire game. They almost beat IMG's not ranked nationally because they have a bunch of postgraduates on the team. The thing about Salesianum, they have played 3 of probably the top 15 teams in the country.
And
they were ranked 25th by Inside Lacrosse Magazine.
Right.
So
it's impressive. I mean, and that's what this program's been.
Yeah, I mean, it's a destination for lacrosse players. But it should be a fun tournament, and it's, you know, I think Sally's gets out of that bottom half, and whoever they play, I think it's going to be a fantastic game.
Absolutely. So I mean, we've talked about the top teams here. Looking at the breakdown of the matchups, tomorrow they kick off May 18th. Half of the opening round games. The following half on May 19th. Quarterfinals Saturday, May 22nd. Semifinals Tuesday, May 25th. With the finals May 27th, 7:30 p.m. start at Dover High School. It should be a good one. You know, will Sanford get out and shock the world, so to speak, as a 1 seed in an up-and-coming program? Will Cape Henlopen defend their championship? Will Sally's get back on top? We will all find out soon enough. Lots of questions.
Yes.
They, you guys tried to answer them now, but we will see what Father Time has in store for all of us.
I think this is going to be this tournament is going to be so much fun. Maybe obviously not everybody can win a championship, but I'm looking at possibly Archmere sees Rodney
Second
rematch.
round. Yeah.
And Archmere went down there and really took care of them, but I don't expect that it would have the same result this time around. Not that kind of disparity.
And I think CR was missing a couple players from injuries in that game, so I don't know if they'll be back, but sometimes that can make a difference too.
Okay. So here you go. One last question, and then we'll wrap things up. If you are a big-time lacrosse fan and you're thinking, I'm going to wait to maybe the semifinals to check out a Sanford, a Salesianum, a Cape Henlopen, assuming they get there, and you're looking at a quarterfinal matchup that maybe you want to go check out, your big Delaware lacrosse fan, and you want to check out some other teams, what's your number one matchup you're looking at potentially as a quarterfinal matchup? I'll start with you, Jay. Outside of the top, the top three favorites that maybe we're saying are out there.
I think that DMA Cape.
Okay.
Cape game probably, but like you said, they're in that top three. So maybe after that you would go Archmere CR.
Okay.
But yeah, I would like to see Tower Hill Salesianum. I don't know if Tower could play with Salesianum, but it'd be interesting to see. Tower beat them in 2010 for the state championship in a low scoring 5-4. Final, maybe Tower finds a way to slow down that Sal's offense, but if I had to pick a matchup, I like that 5-4 matchup between Cape Henlopen as the 5 seed, traveling up here to play a DMA team. DMA has a stadium now, right on the campus, and so they kind of get a home field advantage that they haven't had
capacity,
right, and that they haven't had in the past. So that could be a tough trip for Cape Henlopen to come up here, and then Cape Henlopen might have to come back up for the semis if it's at the higher seed at Sanford. So it's not an easy draw. So I really like that. I think that Cape Henlopen DMA game could be really good in the quarterfinals.
I guess that was a silly question, Mike. I said, which of the quarterfinal matchups would you like to see that doesn't include any of the top
there's only one,
three?
right?
There's only one extra one. That's exactly what I just said.
But I think it's a good one, Archmere CR with a rematch potential. I don't want to leave downplay Wilmington Charter, Newark Charter. Maybe you get the Charter matchup. You never know. The Wilmington and Newark Charter battling. The Patriots and the Force. But I think that would be a fun one to see. Would be at Archmere on Saturday. It'd be a busy day up on the campus and right down the street from my house.
Absolutely. So, well, I want to thank you, gentlemen, for joining me here today and breaking down these brackets. That's going to do it for us, I believe, here. Any final words here before we shut it down?
Yeah, I just want to give a shout out to all committees. They did a great job, and the DIAA. We got through the season. And that was at the beginning of the year for all sports. The question was what we're going to get through, and we did. So shout out to everyone in the DIAA and to all the committees for putting all these tournaments together. It's not easy trying to get logistics. It's not easy working around proms and graduations and all that stuff in the spring. So shout out to all of them for their hard work.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Pat and Jason mentioned getting the season done during the DIAA meeting last week. They were told that, to their knowledge, there were no sport-to-sport transmissions of COVID. So congratulations to the teams for playing by the rules and getting through the season. I know we're not doing a girls lacrosse preview, but congratulations to the Tatnall Hornets, undefeated regular season.
Of course.
And we'll see what happens. And to all the athletes who reached milestones, 100 goals, 100 saves, assists. Congratulations on 200 strikeouts.
Yeah.
Walk-off hits, top 10 catches. Keep sending us the videos. We're not done yet. It's been a great season from the athletes and the coaches. And Jason mentioned the DIAA. I don't think they get enough credit for what they do. And we're not done yet. We still have 2 weeks and a couple days before we get a little break.
Absolutely.
And I'm looking forward to it.
So that will do it here for Delaware Live. Broke down all these spring championships. Unfortunately, girls lacrosse, we didn't get a chance to do that, but when that bracket comes out, you'll hear our commentary on it at some point for sure. Thanks to Buffalo Wild Wings for housing us here in Middletown for this show. Thanks to all of our sponsors as well that have helped keep Delaware Live and 302 Sports going. Nick Halliday, thanks for the production today. Shout out Benny Mitchell, thanks for hopping on, and Glenn Frazier as well for the baseball softball segments. For Mike and Jay, I've been Patrick Arianes. Thank you at home for tuning in. We will see you at our next streams. We'll see you then. Bye.